This video is brought to you by Craven's Comic Books and Collectibles. Check out their weekly live show, auction, and sale at facebook.com/cravenscomics every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. And you can check out their inventory at cravenscomics.com. Craven's Comics, for the comics you crave. Welcome to the program, Tiffany Smith.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. Of course, Masters of the Universe Revelation, it dropped last Friday. The part 1, 5 episodes of the series are out. And you play Andra, who the name is from a very obscure Masters of the Universe character from the comics of the 80s. But this Andra has a lot more going on. Tell us about your character.
Yeah, so when they were developing the show, they kind of were like, okay, we want to take something that's from the lore that people know, but bring it to a new character. And so that's where the name Andra came from. There's a lieutenant that's in, like, I think she's in like 4 frames in the comics or something. And then they took the name and created Andra for me, which was awesome. They didn't create it for me. They created her and then I auditioned for it. But they created Andra, and they really wanted a character that was, you know, kind of like the audience, that I could be the fangirl coming in and being excited about everything in Eternia. And once I started learning more about her, I was like, oh, she kind of feels like Barry Allen, like the Flash, when he's always like, oh, it's the Justice League. Everyone's so cool. I've heard all about you. And then I get to be a part of it. So that was kind of what was explained to me when I first came in to do some of the voiceover for Andra. And like you mentioned, you know, Kevin and I have worked together before. I've gotten to host some projects with him. And so when I came in the first day, he was like, you know, I didn't know. I was like, do they want me to do a voice? Because sometimes when you do auditions for voiceover, you'll send something in and then you get there on the day and they're like, actually, we're going to have you do something totally different. And you're like, okay, cool. So I was just kind of like, if they want me to do something different or go along with exactly how I auditioned. And Kevin was like, she's you, Tiffany, but like more animated and like amped up. And I was like, and she's way more badass and way better engineer than I will ever be. So that was kind of how we landed on the Andra that you guys get to see in the show.
Yeah, and one of the things watching, I got to watch the after show, as it were. It's weird to say that when you talk about a Netflix show, that it's just there. But you were in that show. You guys talked about the fact that you guys were able to at least initially meet up in studio and in person, kind of thing. But then subsequent recording sessions were done because of COVID.
Yeah,
you were separated. Obviously, having done voice work and stuff like that before, it was a big change for everybody. What was that like for you, though, like approaching the character and how you're working with Kevin and the voice directors on putting your character together, going from in studio and then, you know, on your own?
Yeah, you know, I think the thing that's really interesting is, you know, a lot of times in voiceover, you don't record with the other actors. It's not the same as when you're on a set and you get to do the scenes with your co-stars and stuff. So many times you do record separately, but you would be in the studio and you'd have the director and everybody just on the other side of the window. So I was lucky, like you said, the first session that I did, we had Susan Eisenberg there, Stephen Root, and Henry Rollins. So I got to see all of them record some stuff, which was huge for me because this is my first, like I've done voiceover, but this was my first series where I was going to get to carry a character through episodes. So it was really awesome for me to get to see the 3 of them performing and the directors working with them and Kevin working with them. Cause it kind of just, there was like, oh, I can pick up certain words where it's like, oh, that's what this means. That's what you want me to do here. And just things where it's like, you know, you hear so many times, it's like people use their bodies and their face is weird when they're doing voiceover. And once I actually got to see people do it, it took a lot of the nerves away from when I went in to do my stuff. So we did that first one. And what was so great was, you know, I think every creative has imposter syndrome. So like I did the first session and I was like, I'm fired. I'm going to be fired. Like, and so I reached out to Susan immediately after that and was like, hey, would you mind just like sitting with me and talking with me about the voiceover industry and your experience? Cause I mean, she's Wonder Woman. She's done so much in the industry and she was amazing and sat with me. We had lunch and we talked for probably like 2 or 3 hours. Just about her career and tips and tricks and advice and all that kind of stuff. And it was so encouraging for me. So I think that set me up really well for the rest of the episodes. And then, you know, we still, like, I got to still go into the studio, but everyone was on Zoom. So I still got the great direction from Colette Sunderman, who's our voice director, and then Kevin would be on Zoom as well. And then the directors from Powerhouse Animation were on too. So it was one of those things where I think when you're doing anything creative and you really trust everybody else who's on board, I felt like if I was messing up, they were going to correct me. And I, at one point I even said that to Colette. I was like, you don't have to baby me. Like, if I do something that's bad and it's not what you guys want, tell me. Like, don't be worried about hurting my feelings, because I'd rather get it the way we need it than like people tiptoeing because they're afraid I'm going to be like, oh no, that wasn't what I meant to do. And I think that kind of set a good tone. Cause I mean, so even for, hosting a podcast, it's like, you can know so much about what you're doing, but it's the audience that sees it and hears it. And so if that's the director hearing it and they've heard everybody else's performance, then I know that I need to trust them to say, okay, you can guide me where I need to go, because you know what Sarah's doing with Tila here, or you know what freaking Mark Hamill is doing with Skeletor at certain parts. So that was kind of, I think I was set up really well. And I was just telling someone earlier today that I was just like, I think that's the biggest piece of advice I can always give people, is that if you know people that are doing the thing that you want to do, ask them for advice, ask them for tips. The worst that can happen is they say, I'm sorry, I don't have time, or no, like, and then you're in the same position you were in before. So if you have the people and the resources, then take advantage of that as much as you can.
No, definitely. But going back to that recording session there, Susan Eisenberg, Stephen Root, Henry Rollins, Tiffany Smith. That sounds like a really cool cast for an indie film that I want to see. Definitely want to see.
I'm so on board for that.
Oh man, but with your audition for this, you broke out your lightsaber, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Was it to get the power in your hands?
I mean, like, I knew that, like, if you just say, I have the power, like, I have so much respect for Chris, because I'm like, that has to be intimidating the first time that you're saying those words that we all know so well. And when I got the audition sides, it wasn't, sometimes it's lines from different characters, or it's a different scene, or it's the same scene for every actor, but you're not auditioning for that specific role. So there was the famous line at the end of one of the scenes, and I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I feel like I'm just saying it and it's not feeling like it's there. And as I'm saying this, I one of my other favorite things to do is go on eBay and buy vintage t-shirts. And so I got this vintage He-Man shirt, and it has the sword and everything. Nice. But so I was like, I don't have a sword, so I'll use my lightsaber. So I pulled it off the wall and I do the whole line, and then I get to it and it was like, I have the power. And then I turned it on. And I was like, all right, so I mean, it's the end of my audition. So if they got this far, they probably are okay with what I've done up to here. Right. And if they get this far and they didn't like me, then whatever, it's fine. So yeah, I left it on there because I was like, I mean, obviously it's not the same franchise. It's not the power sword, but it is a different power sword.
There you go. Exactly.
And I feel like holding it just gave me the right energy, lifting your arms up and everything and doing it. Apparently it worked.
Well, I was going to say, like, your audience there being Kevin Smith, like, that's really going to work with him. That's it's not like he's going to be like going, no, I don't like this. Yeah. Lightsabers. This is not
feeling it. Not
nerdy enough. No.
Yep.
So like, obviously playing around in the sandbox is, a unique experience, especially bringing back such a beloved property. And I know that the fan reaction has been, for the most part, amazingly positive for it. When you were coming into it, like going back to that audition, did you ever think about, like, do you ever have any hesitation? You're just like going, oh man, this is a lot. This is a lot. This is a big franchise. Like,
I didn't think about, I mean, I think that when you're doing anything like this, it's really hard to think that far out. I definitely was like, I grew up with this. I have action figures. I have my first grade photo where I'm holding, Peekaboo. I don't know how I got away with that in school, but I guess they were like, well, she's not going to take her school photo if we don't let her hold this. So I'm holding Peekaboo. And so I think what hit me more was that I was like, I don't want to be the weak link in this cast, because, you know, we've mentioned some of the names on the show, and it's just, everyone is so incredibly talented, and so their resumes are so prolific, and I'm kind of starting to step into this space. And so for me, it was, I just want to make sure that, you know, I'm at the level that they are all bringing to the performances. And especially because, you know, for me, it was, I grew up watching the cartoon. Like I said, I watched a ton of cartoons when I was little, and there weren't tons of characters that looked like me. I'm multiracial. So it was like my sister and I would pretend to be like, I'm her, I'm him, I'm this, whatever. But it wasn't people that looked anything like me. So I think that was something that I took on a little bit more, was that the idea that if I could voice a character that for some kid or some adult like me who was a kid growing up watching animation and could see themselves in her in any way, even in a little bit, that was something that I was like, I want to make sure that she is awesome and badass and has a strong point of view and adds to the story, which I feel really proud that she does.
Yeah, no, definitely. She adds a lot to the story, and she is a total badass, which is really joy. Now, again, as you said, a lot of the recording was done separately. So when you finally got to see like the episode, especially like episode 3, so starts out and suddenly it's your voice with Sarah Michelle Gellar's voice with Lena Headey's voice all together, like with this kind of like really powerful unit. What was it like for you getting to finally see the finished product and see this kind of team of badass women together?
It was very surreal. I think the weird thing about voiceover, and I've heard this from a lot of my friends and family, they're like, it doesn't sound like you, and then all of a sudden you say something and they can hear that it's my voice. And so that's something that I enjoy about voiceover, is that you can watch it kind of and just take yourself out of it. When I'm watching something that it's, you know, my face on the screen, it's harder to say, I'm acting, that's not me. But for this, it was a lot easier to be like, okay, I'm just watching as a fan and just getting to get excited and geek out about the things that are happening on the show. And so that made it a little bit easier for me to kind of watch. I mean, there's one scene in particular where, you know, I love Star Wars and I love Batman. So the Joker and Mark Hamill is just such a, like, he's just always been in my, like, his voice has just always been in my head. So there's one scene in particular where they meet for the first time, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have a scene with Mark Hamill. I know we didn't get to do it together, but I was like, it was so cool. And the part I loved so much is that, like I said, Andra is usually the fangirl, and that scene, she's so focused on loyalty and her family and what's happening that she doesn't kind of fan out over him. And I love that, because I was like, like I could really geek out about that. So yeah, it's surreal. And I feel like I said, looking back at my first grade photo and then flash forward to now, I'm like, did I like manifest this as a kid? Like that I was like, I'm going to be in that world at some point. Because if I did, I'm so on board for that. I need to look at other old photos of myself and see what other toys I had.
Yeah, you got to look for those action figures. There's a G.I. Joe there. Okay, I'm going to be.
It's true. Definitely have My Little Ponies. I know I have those.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, well, we don't have a My Little Pony movie yet, right?
Yes,
so
but it's definitely going to come. Everything else is coming. It's definitely going to come. We got an email in from Bryce H, who writes, what does Tiffany like better, acting or voice acting?
That's hard. I mean, I really enjoy both of them, because I think there is something that's so awesome about not having to think about what you're wearing or your hair and makeup or what your face looks like on camera or what your body's doing. Then there's just a different freedom in voiceover. And the fact that, like I said, you can kind of get lost in the character, and it's not so much about you, Tiffany, acting as the character that you're playing. So I do really enjoy that. And I do now, it's like even more so, the more work that I do, the more excited I get about creating characters. Because it's like I said, I feel really lucky that I've gotten to host panels and be around a lot of voiceover actors. And a lot of them, it's like you're talking to them and they just drop in and out of all the voices that they've done. And it's incredible. And I'm like, I don't naturally do that, but I'm like, okay, I should have, if I'm going to do this, like, let me come up with some voices and look at images and see like, what would that voice sound like in my head and play with that a little bit. So there is some fun in that, because you can play things that on camera you wouldn't necessarily ever be able to do. And then acting on camera, it's something where it's the only way I can describe it is that I think all of me is present when I'm acting on camera. Cause it's like, okay, I have to be super focused on the person that I'm talking to, that the cameras are here, that this is going on here, my lines, and conveying a certain emotion with every part of me that's on camera. And that is something that's really exhilarating and exciting. But I think both of them, it's what I love is that you're creating something awesome with a team. I'm not very great at competitive group sports, but I consider like TV, film, animation, all this stuff. It's like not competitive, but it's like a team art project.
Yeah.
And so getting to bring it all together both of them feel incredible for me. I love getting to work with such incredibly talented and amazingly kind people.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I want to go back to something you were talking about earlier, which was, of course, playing Andra as somebody that you never got to see when you were growing up. Right. Yeah. And now that it's been out, for a little bit, have you had a chance to hear from anybody like through social media about like, other little girls, I should say, that are little women. I don't know what.
I mean, they're little women too.
They are. Yes.
They're actually hearing from the characters of Little Women.
Yeah, that's it, right? Yeah. We're reading 19th century books. No,
yeah.
But have you started to hear from fans that have seen your character and have been like, she's amazing. I'm so happy to see somebody who looks like me in something like this.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten messages like that, and also just the messages from people where it's, an adult who's watching with their son or daughter and saying like, I'm so excited because I got to fan out about this stuff when I was younger. And now getting to do that with my kid is so incredible. I think that, I love going to conventions because you get to have so many more in-depth face-to-face conversations with people. And that was kind of where I've had the most conversations like that, where, it's a dad or a mom bringing up their daughter or their son and kind of just saying that, either they love watching DC All Access because they were like, oh my gosh, like seeing you on there, it made them think they could do that too. Or, even stuff where it's like feeling comfortable talking about geeky stuff and knowing that it's okay to like that stuff. Because even for me growing up, like I know I was into it when I was really young, and there was definitely a phase in high school, college where I was kind of like, do I like high school going into college, I think, where I was like, is this like weird that I like all this stuff? And then at some point I was like, it's not weird, it's awesome. And I'm very fortunate to get to do and work in that space for my career. So if I can be someone that someone sees on a show at any point and even like can glimpse 1% of themselves in me on that show and it inspires them to do what they really want to do, it's like I don't even know what the words are to say it because it just like makes my heart so happy. It's awesome.
Well, totally. Now, of course, since COVID began, that's changed the industry completely. And you yourself, when you're doing auditions, they're all self-tapes in your apartment, and you've set up a recording booth in your closet and things like that. So my question is, how does your dog Loki react to this? Like, has it been like, this is all brand new, what the hell's going on sort of thing?
Well, I got him at the beginning of quarantine. He was a foster fail.
Oh.
So I was like, I live by myself. Like, I want to talk to something that's not my furniture. And so I went and, was like, okay, I'll foster this dog until someone wants to adopt him. And when I got him, he was 7 pounds, I think. And now he's 70 pounds. Yeah.
That's a big dog.
I know. When I got him, they were like, so we think he's mostly Great Pyrenees, so he might break 100. And I was like, cool. Yeah, cool. I already love him. So what am I going to do? So he has been through the whole of all of this. I think the biggest change for him is the fact that like now I have to put him somewhere where he can't run around and bark and be crazy. He's pretty chill. He's definitely learned the word bye, I think, because I'll be on Zoom or something and he'll be quiet over on the other side of the room. And then as soon as I say that, he runs over. So it's like, he knows that he can engage then. So for self-tapes, it was funny because sometimes when you have to do more emotional ones, I was like, it was cool to see because if I got worked up, he would like come over and like sit at my feet to be like, are you okay? So that part's been really, really fun and sweet. And, it's like, I feel bad because sometimes my friends who have kids, I'm like, I know what it's like because I have a dog. And I'm like, I mean, my dog is not like your kid, but it kind of is. Like, I have to make sure I'm like taking care of him and putting him like doing things where it's like I'm trying to do work, but also making sure that I'm walking him enough. And if I don't take him out, he definitely lives up to his name, Loki, and being a little mischief maker. So yeah, he is the best thing that's come out of quarantine for sure after this last year. And I mean, it even happened. My parents were like, oh, we'll adopt him. Like, you just train him during quarantine. And then it started getting to more where we were like, okay, we're going to get to come out of this, like whatever. And my parents were like, so are you going to bring him over? And I was like, yeah, but like, he's my dog. Like, can you guys watch him like when I have jobs and stuff? And that's a huge part of it for me, that I think anybody in a job that they don't know where they'll be or how long they'll be somewhere, having a pet can be really hard. So I'm very thankful that my parents are grandparents to Loki, and we're like, anytime you book anything, we will take him and watch him while you're gone. And it's great because I know they love him just as much as I do. So it makes it doable for me.
That's great.
That's awesome.
And that was the key to this whole thing, is I should have got a dog, because I've been talking to my furniture this entire time. So
it's so true, Tiffany. It's so true.
It literally got to the point where I kicked something the one day, and I think I was like, oh, sorry. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is too much. Like, I need to do something about this.
Oh, definitely. Oh my God.
And I don't mean to laugh, but it's so true. It's, when you're stuck inside for a long period of time, you just, like I got to the point where I missed going to the grocery store, which is just mind boggling. Yeah. I was like, I just need people because I don't like them the rest of the time.
And it's hilarious because Green hates people. So when he says I need people, that's the cause for concern. Definitely. Yeah.
Well, that's the part too that I think so many people learn. Like I think I'm an introvert. I'm an introverted extrovert. Like, I need people and I need to get charged up when I'm around people, but I also then hit a point where I'm like, I've got to be by myself to like reset. And so this year has been a really interesting balancing act of like, oh, I don't really mind being by myself as much as I have been on most days. But then there's points where it's like, you do get a chance to Zoom with people, or, go somewhere where it's like all your friends are vaccinated and you feel a little bit safer, where it's like, you just get this like shot of adrenaline from being around people that, you don't know how much that affects you until it's gone for so long. And then you're like, oh, wow, I really do need that.
I will say though, after I've had a couple of those experiences, draining.
Oh, 1,000%.
Forgot what it's like to be around other people.
Yes. Also, I had like an in-person audition. This was like a couple weeks ago, like right after, when everyone's like, it's okay, you can go mask and do stuff. I went and did the audition, and I remember I left and I called my manager and I was like, I don't know if I'm like funny anymore or if I just like am annoyingly nonstop talking. Like, because I haven't been around people. So I'm like, oh my gosh, let's talk about this show. And I'm going to talk about this. And I'm going to talk about this. And I was like, I'm not sure where the balance is anymore.
Right. Well, I think you'll find the balance, like we all will, definitely. And you are still very funny. But just before we go here, one quick question. When you shot the Masters of the Universe Revelation after show with Kevin Smith and the Mattel people, were you able to take any of those toys home with you?
No, but this is what I will say. Because a lot of those toys, they actually found stuff that was like on eBay, vintage toys and stuff. Because, they were legit the toys from the 80s.
Yeah.
Mattel has been awesome. And they sent me the Mega Construct, the Castle Grayskull.
Oh, nice.
So I've been building that. And of course, once our toys from the show are all out, then I'm like, yes, I want a full set of those. But yeah, I didn't steal anything.
Okay.
I didn't steal anything.
Okay.
That's fair. I don't blame you though. Like, I'd be like going, where's my Andra? Where's my Andra?
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, I don't want to take anything. Cause I'm like, well, hopefully we'll get to do some more. So I don't want to be like, oh, you remember that girl we brought in for that new character? She took all the toys from set.
I would have waited till the day that Muse was on set to be interviewed, steal it, and then say it had to be Jason Mewes. There you go. That's what
I think the best I will say I did take this away from the after show shoot. Alan Oppenheimer came in and we did an interview with him.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's amazing. But so he was about to leave and I was like, hey, can we take a photo? He's like, absolutely. And I haven't posted it yet, but I will. But he was like, are you ready? And I was like, okay, what? And then he gave me like the biggest kiss on the cheek for our photo. And it was just like the sweetest thing ever. Like the picture is so cute. And that was one of those moments for me where it was like, I mean, he's an icon. And it was, you know, we had such a great conversation about his experience doing the voice and creating Skeletor. And, you know, he talked about a lot of the like really deep stuff that people will share at conventions with him. And so that is a moment that I will definitely cherish from getting to do the after show.
That is really awesome. Well, Tiffany, it's been great talking with you. We look forward to the second half of Masters of the Universe Revelation. Of course, people should definitely check it out on Netflix right now because it is so much fun.
Thank you. Well, thank you guys so much for having me and chatting. It was really fun. And yeah, keep your eyes posted because I'm waiting as eagerly as everyone else to find out when the part 2 of season 1 is going to drop.
It needs to happen right now. I need it like I need it tonight. That's what I need.
There you go.
I don't think I can make that happen.
Understood.
Hopefully.
Well, Tiffany, thank you very much. Have yourself a great night.
Thanks. You guys too. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.